American public high school has failed to keep up. But a long time ago, public high school was a place of radical innovation. Free and accessible schooling was seen as a vital part of democracy that would guarantee equal opportunity for all. Industrialization transformed high school into a place to prepare the future workforce for new jobs in factories and large-scale farms. To ensure that everyone received fair and uniform instruction, we adopted the Carnegie Unit, which quantified learning based on the amount of time a student spends sitting in a classroom. The curriculum shifted to focus on rules, repetition, and small contained problems rather than large ones. Subjects were broken into time-based chunks signaled by a shrill bell. To prepare the teenagers of the early 20th century for factory life, we put them in a pre-factory, and that's where we've kept our teenagers ever since. In the last 100 years, as careers have moved from the industrial to the idea-driven, as global economies have risen and fallen, as women have strengthened the workforce, as the U.S. has welcomed nearly 250 million new people, as we've gone from a Model T to a Tesla and a switchboard to a smartphone, high school has stayed frozen in time.
We divide the day up in high schools into bits of time, into 40 or 50-minute blocks typically, and then we ring bells and people start to shuffle around the building and do something else. That's an organizational device, it's not an educational principle.
10 university heads in 1890 said, in 11th grade, everyone should learn chemistry. In senior year, everyone should learn physics. A lot of these subjects are great, but these priorities were dictated 124 years ago.
The old blue-collar industrial model of education is already gone. We're already living in its wake.
What happens to society when hundreds of millions of people have that aimless, rudderless feeling of, I've been replaced by a very small box?
We want our students to think critically, but we make them memorize. We want intellectual curiosity, but we pad the schedule with easy courses. We want innovation, but we teach to a packet. We want self-reliance, but we force them to sit prisoner in the name of learning.
There's this problem, which is that the model that we have for educating kids, it is a mass production model. It's a factory model. It doesn't provide an individualized experience to kind of anybody. Every 45 minutes, kids switch to a different subject and they open a textbook and they read the next chapter, and at the end of the week, they take a quiz. That experience is teaching kids how to think like computers, and that's not going to be very valuable when these kids actually grow up to be adults.
And what's most important for kids today is learning how to learn. Society must develop learners ready to tackle challenges they cannot anticipate. Education is a system we created to serve that purpose. Over 100 years ago, we invented modern schooling to send kids to one of three main places: the factory, the farm, or the university. We always lost some kids, but this model provided a middle-class life for most and economic growth. Over time, the economy changed. Farm jobs diminished and office jobs surged. College grads always had better access, but there was also a path straight from high school to the office. As office work changed, it got harder to get there from high school. Eventually, that path disappeared. College became the main path to opportunity. We started sending more kids to college, but we didn't change the overall system. Education broke down, trapping too many kids on paths that no longer made sense for them or for the country. As farm and factory jobs continued to decline, we started to lose even more students. The retail sector rose up to catch them, but these low-skill, low-wage jobs often failed to move kids forward in life. With the decline of good jobs, kids had nowhere to go. Retail increasingly offered the only alternative. We lost even more students to dead-end futures. More high school graduates tried to get into college, but found they were not prepared for success, academically or financially. Fortunately, community colleges emerged to help people re-engage in their own learning and seek new pathways forward. They helped many students get back on track, but most students still found their way to community college on their own, or by accident. Today, far too many kids exit the K-12 system feeling stuck. Our model of school is broken. Our current system is failing our kids and our country. We know that America is falling behind. We are not getting kids where they need to be in reading, science, and math. Education is a critical part of the solution to every problem we face. The key question is, what does the future of learning look like, and how will we create it? When we think about the future, we're usually doing one of two things: dreaming or dreading. When we dream, we start with an idea, a positive trend, and take this idea to its logical conclusion. We imagine a utopia that represents our hopes for all that's possible. Maybe that idea is a belief in the promise of technology to transform learning.
Our current education system has its roots in the industrial age of society. Today's traditional classroom was designed before the advent of modern technology, before we really understood how varied the individual needs of each student were, and before we looked at the entire system as a whole. To truly improve this system, we must break it down and reimagine the environment to more actively engage each and every kind of learner. So we must look at all the different areas of their lives: home, future work environment, social experience, and implications of technology, and realize that today's students are much more social and enjoy learning in a less structured way with their friends anytime, anywhere. If they're awake, they are on and connected. Learning is no longer limited to the confines of the traditional classroom. The success of each individual student must be the driving force behind this transformation. And just as we reconsider learning, we should also reconsider the architecture that supports it. We must look carefully at today's students and the mission of education before we begin to design. Great schools are where students own their learning, and the school itself affords them a variety of work environments and opportunities for collaboration. Whether it's individual study, small groups, large groups, formal or informal, students are taking a more self-directed role, and teachers are becoming coaches and mentors, guiding the efforts of the student with every space, every surface considered for possible learning opportunities. The solution, although unique to each educational community, must be flexible, adaptable, high performance, sustainable, and technology-rich. All of this to provide a variety of visually connected spaces that inspire, support, and promote the discovery and exchange of knowledge.
Design and architecture are in many ways a unique part of Danish cultural heritage. Although from the outside it may look like an ordinary modern upper high school, inside it's a different story. Ørstad Gymnasium opened in 2007, has no walls, no classrooms, and spaces that are only loosely defined by permeable borders.
What makes Ørstad Gymnasium unique is our building with the open learning environments and our use of ICT in teaching. You have to organize teaching where the students are active. And one way of forcing teachers to do that is by having a building where you can't have traditional teaching all the time. You have to do something different in this building.
The staircase is the focal point of the building and the symbol of the school. Here, students can chat, meet their friends, and get some exercise with the frequent up and down trips. 3 circular areas are dedicated to breaks and free time in between lessons, although students also use them as work areas. The students use only electronic teaching materials, and while they're working in groups, the teacher monitors each pupil's progress from the computer.
Sometimes they go over the edge and some make a bit too much noise, but that's why we do a lot of it over the internet and communicate over the internet, so we don't have to talk too much and talk over distances. So we keep the noise at a minimum, and it's usually not a problem. Yeah.
We all learn in different ways. This isn't the way to do it, this is the way that I did it.
If the assignment is you get it back and you crumple it up and throw it in the trash can, that's kind of one student experience. And if the assignment is to produce something that you're going to present to professionals in the field, that's completely changing the whole dynamic.
We are trying to have that type of perplexity and curiosity get inculcated in our students. The things I think in life that give us some of the greatest satisfaction is making something that wasn't there before.
And I can't wait for that moment when it does work and I'm completely done with it and it's like all leaves. It'll be one of the greatest moments in my life.
When kids have that feeling, it's transformative for them. I made this, and everyone's coming to look at it. I think the type of risk that I would like teachers to take is to have kids actually doing work that's important to them, instead of this antiquated notion of content, which is these are the things that you really need to know. Look, every single one of us, including a 90% penetration of people in the country, everyone has one. It sees you, it hears you, it feels you, it knows where you are, it can tell you anything instantly. It really changes this notion of what kids know and need to be able to do. What kids need to be able to do is they need to know how to make things. They need to know how to make things that weren't there before. It could be absolutely anything. And at the same time, we've got...
Education, it's a big challenge now. If we do not change the way we teach, 30 years later we'll be in trouble. Because the way we teach, the thing we teach our kids are the things the past 200 years is knowledge-based. And we cannot teach our kids to compete with a machine who is smarter. We have to teach something unique. That is, machine can never catch up with us. Value, believing, independent thinking, teamwork, care for others. These are the soft parts.
I always believe that every student has the ability to achieve through personalized learning because not every student learns the same way. With Summit, it takes what we do every single day and it makes it more accessible to each and every kid and each and every learner.
Summit Learning is a teaching and learning approach, which is all focused around a vision for every child to be able to build a fulfilled life. This is about enabling people to be able to make that happen and to do it in community alongside other people.
This is a program that can help you differentiate, can help you individualize, and it will be work, but it will be better for your students.
Personalized learning to me means that every single student has a pathway that makes sense to them, that's connected to their long-term goals and aspirations.
I guess you're not running in a track anymore, you're more running on a field, and you choose which direction you run to.
Let's meet them where they're at and frame the teacher's role as all about facilitating an experience where each of those kids can make real meaningful progress.
They are more center stage. They are not students who are sitting at their desks waiting to have like an education delivered to them. They're doing group work, they're doing hands-on projects.
Last year in math, we had a project called event planning. I never knew math could be so fun, and the other day someone actually asked me if they would help me plan some surprise party for their dad, and I was like, I know exactly how to do that because I knew how to create a spreadsheet and put in everything that we needed to buy and our budgets and all that kind of stuff.
We do a lot of group work in our projects, and especially because we help our peers out.
And this was a really pleasant surprise is how good the students have gotten at collaborating with each other and supporting each other.
I think that the thing that surprises most people is about how the teachers aren't always in front teaching you stuff. You're teaching yourself.
You can kind of work at your own pace, because at my old elementary school, there was we couldn't go ahead, even though I wanted to go ahead so much.
I've learned that I'm smarter than I think I am. I'm more responsible than I think I am. I can stay focused easier.
Instead of saying, this is the curriculum that you should learn, it was, okay, let me get to know a little bit more about who you are, what you like, what you want, and then let me figure out how this curriculum can work for you.
That's just a very human desire, is to be known and to be seen and to be accepted for who we are. And that is really at the heart of a personalized learning community.
Each child defines their own experience to learn in a way that feels natural, takes advantage of their curiosity, and that doesn't try and corral them to learn this thing right now in this way. And that's where technology plays a foundational role versus a superficial role. There are two tools that fundamentally enable personalization in our schools. One tool is called the portrait. So this is a representation of, all the things that are important about each child that different people can add to for curating a day-to-day education experience that's going to meet them where they are. That maps to a second tool which we call the playlist, which is the kind of scaffold for each child's day. It's a to-do list and a calendar. It allows each child to decide, what order they do things, or they can decide what's on that playlist as they get older. It's allowing a child to have agency. None of us like being told what we need to do, when, where, how, with whom. There's nothing that's more demotivating than that. And if you're not motivated, you don't actually learn. There's no way to force a kid to learn. They have to actually go along with a certain experience. They have to actually think.
But we have to scrap the blueprint, revolutionize this dangerously broken system. And if we do, if we can completely transform the model for public high school, we think we can change a whole lot more. If we change high school, we can change the future workforce for a complex, competitive world. We can change the poverty rate and the inequity of incarceration. We can change the broken connection between schools and communities. We can change the very building blocks of American society. If we profoundly change high school, we can reach not just the 50 million kids enrolled in public school, but the hundreds of millions who will follow them and the billions of people worldwide that they will impact. It's time to step up. It's time to rethink the model itself and truly innovate. Let's challenge the idea of bodies in seats and 500-page textbooks. Let's teach to the subject, not to the bell. Let's inspire a new kind of knowledge that's agile, creative, and endlessly relevant. Let's apply our astounding ingenuity to one of the largest public systems in the world. Let's truly reimagine what a public high school should be, partnering with the brightest talent in the country. Let's make a renewable system that works for today and tomorrow. Let's honor the beautiful promise the founders of public school made. Let's make a brave leap forward. 50 million kids
It's a
need us to
tragedy
try.
that as the world outside school changes faster and faster, the majority of American kids are not being set up to succeed in the future that's coming. We're entering a world where there's not a lot of value on just kind of sitting there and doing what you're told. Increasingly, a computer could do that kind of stuff. We are eventually going to create a new model of education suited to the 21st century instead of the last half of the 19th century. This is going to happen. We're just trying to make it happen sooner.